All right, so I'm just going to go through. There's a lot of data and slides and things like that. So I'm going to go through all of the different age ranges. They're kind of broken up into four main levels of age ranges. So you can kind of tune out if that age range doesn't apply to you, and then go on to the other ones that do. But in case you don't know me, I was a teacher for 15 years, mainly first through third grade, some kindergarten too, but have put a lot of time and effort into teaching my kids about money, and just thought it's something that we could all use a refresher on. So that's what this class is about, the specific one in our bigger Foundations of Wealth course. So this one is how to teach your kids about money. Um, so let me minimize that so I can get through my slides. Right, here we go. Maybe, if I can get them to work. So first of all, having a conversation with your children about what does true wealth mean. So wealth doesn't always just mean money, and understand that we actually have four different types of capital, and so that they can understand how wealthy they are in each of these categories. Okay, so the first one is human capital. So this is how wealthy is your family in terms of the things that you inherited, your legacy, your family history, your values, your work ethic, the stories, the beliefs that you have, your faith. All of these go into how wealthy you are as far as human capital. The next one is intellectual capital. So, how wealthy you are in terms of the things that you can do. What are you naturally gifted at? What are they naturally gifted at? So, this could be something like they're really good at sports or skills, or just they can read really fast, or they do well on tests, or even experience. So, how well they show up as a leader, how well they communicate with others. So thinking about how you can stretch this with them as well. Possibly even considering, hey, if you want to grow your wealth in all of these areas, how can you reward growth of wealth in all of these areas? So even thinking about things like, hey, paying them for books read or things like that to kind of help grow their intellectual capital. And then social capital. This would be how wealthy they are or you are in terms of the number of friends that you have, your relationships, your networks, your community, how much you participate, how many times you do community service, things like that. And then finally, the last category would be financial. So, how wealthy are you in terms of your money, but not just your bank account balance, but financial fluency. So, how well you understand finances. So, as we're talking through like older kids, right? Do they understand how to read an income statement or assess a business plan or manage a budget or keep their debt under control? So, financial intelligence and resources is another way that you can kind of gauge and measure those four types of capital that you're wanting to develop in your kids. All right, moving on. I know this is kind of a long slide, but understanding money styles. Okay, so each of your kids, if you have more than one, will have their own personal money style, and you might recognize which one they naturally are. And as you recognize their patterns, it can kind of help you know what to watch out for in your teaching approach and help you address some of the issues that they might have as younger before they become habits that are much harder to break when they're an adult. Okay, so I'm just going to go really quickly through all of these. So the hoarder, this is a natural tendency style in younger kids where they want to just save every single dime that they make. These would be the kids that have their birthday money from like 4 years ago, and they never spend their money because they like being able to touch it and feel it and see it and count it. So it matters more to them that they can touch their money and see it and know that it's there than they care about spending it. And then the next one, the spender. Obviously, they like to spend any money that they get. They can't wait to spend it. Lots of kind of just impulsive buying. If they have it, they just want to spend it. They would rather just buy anything and everything because that is what brings them joy. The scrimper. The scrimper is a little bit different than the hoarder. Okay, so a scrimper does spend money. So they still like to save their money, but a scrimper really likes getting a deal. So what they like is they're pretty much, if they're going to spend, they're going to choose a less expensive option, or they get satisfaction for being able to buy something and have money to come home with when they're done. So they like the deal. That's the scrimper. The giver, naturally generous with their money. They just love to be generous, give money to their friends. They might try to give you money. My son is a giver, and he just wants to like share his money with everyone. The beggar. I think all of our kids end up being this at some point, but this might be where they land most of the time. So they have a lot of wants and they are always asking you for things, grandparents for things, uncles for things, their friends for things, their brothers or sisters or siblings for things. So whatever they want, instead of spending their own money on it, they would rather spend other people's money on it. Wouldn't we all? Okay. And then the hustler, that would be you have your expert negotiator. Okay. So they use money in a transactional way. So you might see them hustling their siblings for money, or, hey, I'll do this for you, but you're going to pay me for it, that kind of thing. And then finally, the last one is the oblivious. So the oblivious child doesn't really pay any attention to money. They don't really have any interest in it. They don't really want the responsibility of it, and they don't really care about it much. It's just not a motivating factor for them at all. So hopefully, as we went through those, you can kind of maybe see which one your kid falls into and which one you were as a kid. So for me, when I was growing up, I was the scrimper, and that still has kind of fed into my adult life as well, right? So like I still get great joy out of finding a deal or a bargain. So these again, there's nothing wrong with any of them. They're just kind of like patterns of how you grow up. And earlier in classes, we kind of talked about your money classroom. So just knowing which of these styles are in your children naturally helps you kind of guide them toward a better understanding. Okay, let's see if I can get it to keep going. No, yes. There we go. Okay, so the most important thing, there are a couple of really important things that you want your child to understand. The first most important thing that you want them to understand is the relationship between work and money. This is an essential connection, right? So money just does not just flow through to you. When you work, it equals money. Okay. And later, that work can be traded for other things, and eventually you can teach them that money works for you. But in the beginning, they need to understand that work equals money. Okay, so I would not recommend that they get an allowance for anything. They get commission. So money is earned through effort. So if you want more money, then you need to work or put forth effort in order to earn that money. Okay, so it links directly to a value. This for this, it's an even trade. It's something that they can understand. Okay, and if you have a really young one, you want to pay them immediately. It doesn't even matter what it is, but they need to see that instant feedback. They need to get that cause and effect. So I would highly recommend if you have littles that you pay them in. Do not give them like a $20 bill, give them like $21 bills because it's going to feel like more. They want to feel the gratification of they did something and they got paid for it. Um, so you want to teach them about working, you want to teach them about spending, okay? Learning to choose wisely. So if they spend all of their money on this item, then that means there is no more coming after that. Right? So if they decide they're going to spend their money on the very first, let's say you were going to the fair, right? And they wanted to buy that snow cone at the fair, the very first one. Okay, well, once they do, then once the money is gone, it's gone. So that's teaching them the opportunity cost, right? Like if you choose to have this thing now, then that means there's not going to be any more for later. So if you wanted to do this ride later, but you've spent it already on a snow cone, then once it's gone, it's gone. Okay. The best thing that you can teach them about spending is delayed gratification. Okay. So waiting for large purchases, understanding the opportunity cost of, hey, you could buy that thing for $2 now, or you can buy that thing for $20 if you wait a little bit. So this comes really into play when they're in kind of like those preteen years. So this is what I'm working on with my son right now. So he saved for 2 years to be able to get his 3D printer that he wanted. And I could have helped him out with it, paid for part of it, but he got the understood after saving for this long. And it was a really big reward for him to know that he bought that himself with his own money that he had saved for. So delayed gratification with spending. Okay. And again, saving, it's a little bit different. So when they're really little, they are going to have money they can spend right now, and they're going to have money that they can spend later. And so that's kind of how you talk about spending money versus saving money. So saving money is still spending, but it's growing to a bigger amount so that they can buy something bigger. So this is where you would want to set a visual savings goal, like a picture of the thing that they really want. Like try to brainstorm together and find that really big thing that they might really want to save for, whether that's a PlayStation set or a trip to Disney or whatever it is. But learning to save over time to be able to get something that's really rewarding for them. You can also teach them about building emergency funds, matching contributions. So, hey, if you save this much, then I will contribute this much to match what you have saved. So that's kind of teaching them how 401ks and things like that work. And then understanding that money grows the longer you leave it alone. So thinking through that. So you have the relationship between work and money, spending money and saving money. And then last, giving money. So teaching children that they can give not just money, but they can also give of their time or their talent, or anything that they have is worthy to give to others. So community involvement is showing kids that they're part of something bigger. So if they see you give, then they're going to also want to give because they're going to emulate what they see. So if they see you donating your time or your talent or your money, then they're going to naturally want to copy the things that you're doing. So the best way to do that is to lead by example. It will cure that me mentality. The best way to get around that selfishness is to show them how that they are benefiting others through giving. Selfish people are transactional, so you want to teach them how to be relational. And you can have them have fun with giving. So helping them go to the grocery store and hiding the $20 bills in diaper boxes or something. They can choose who they're going to give money to. You can let them see what it's like to give a really big tip to a waitress and like hide around the corner and see what happens when they see the amount that they get. All those kind of things are ways that you can kind of develop that giving bone in their bodies. Okay, so I know this is kind of a small slide, but there are 10 basic money skills for life. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about all 10 of these in the 4 age ranges. Okay, so with stage 1, that's going to be like the early littles. Okay, so we're going to talk about all 10 of these in each stage. So once you know what age range obviously you know how old your kids are, but pay attention not only to the age range that they're in right now, but to what's coming next. Okay, so you will get these slides afterwards, so I will make sure that everyone gets them so you don't have to write them all down, but these are the things that we're going to talk about with each age range. So how to save, how to spend, how to have a budget, live within a budget, how to think entrepreneurially, so thinking about creative ideas, using money to impact the world. Oh, I'm kind of going down instead of back and forth. How to get paid for what you're worth, so understanding their value in negotiation. How to talk and communicate about money with other people, how to invest, how to handle credit, and then understanding like global citizenship and big kind of economic systems and how that affects you. All right. So those 10 things we're going to talk about with each age range. Okay. So early childhood, ages 5 to 8. Okay, so you're going to be very responsive in this age range, right? You're going to respond to their money styles. They're going to probably be developing one of those hoarder, spender, saver, thrifter, negotiator, those kind. You're going to pay attention to those and react to those. And you want to make sure that you're establishing and communicating what your family's vision for goals around money are. Okay, and you want to teach them about the 3 main things, right? Like combining work equals money, saving, spending, and giving, and then what are needs versus wants. Okay, so using just something as simple as clear jars to show how much do they have in their savings jar, how much do they have in their spending jar, how much do they have in their giving jar. So maybe instead of a piggy bank, something that's clear that they can actually see that it's growing. Okay, and then again, like what we talked about, paying them immediately for completed jobs. So not waiting to pay them, but pay them right away so that they can make that connection between work and money. And then helping them learn what's a need versus a want. So there are some things that you need and there are some things that you want, and understanding the difference as an early childhood is important. Okay, so this is true of this age range. Okay, so they are naturally curious, they have a lot of energy, but very short attention to things. This is why you want to pay them very quickly. Okay, they are very kind of developing that sense of what's right and what's wrong, and they understand consequences. They should be able to count their money, and they understand the value or purpose of money. So money isn't just to count, like it actually buys things, it pays for things. So just understanding the relationship. Work equals money, money buys things that I want or that I need. And again, wanting to make sure that they understand as a family what you want to do with your money. So, what are some fun things that you can do with money? As a family, talking about what are your wants versus what are your needs, things like that. And getting them into that habit of saving, spending, and giving. All right, ages 9 to 12. This is our um, early adolescence. Okay, so this is their growing independence. This is what my son is right now at home. Okay, so he wants to be independent. He's aware of what his friends are doing. He wants to do the things that his friends are doing. This is a good chance to really talk about like careers and hobbies and personal interest. Again, making that kind of connection between work and money, but on a deeper thinking way. Okay, so they should understand earning money in a bigger way. They should be able to manage kind of simple accounts and maybe show some entrepreneurial curiosity. So this was a way that Leon earned his money for buying the 3D printer that he wanted was he created a commodity to sell, kind of like this lemonade stand, right? So he made Christmas trees and he sold them to people. And then he got to understand cost of sale, cost of, hey, what did it cost me to buy the wood? What did it cost me to pay my dad as the laborer to cut the wood for me? And then he put them together and put the actual like effort into sanding them and staining them and making the ribbons and bows and things for that. So understanding kind of how all that money works together, even understanding the difference between an hourly wage, right, and an entrepreneurial type thing. So if you create and sell something, an idea, the chances of you being able to earn more money as an entrepreneur versus just an hourly wage is pretty big, right? So if you mow lawns, you can make a lot more per hour than you can if you go work at a coffee shop for $7 an hour. So some of that will come a little bit later. Okay, but they should be able to make their own financial choices. Okay, so again, if you're talking about spending, saving, and giving, anything that they make, it's their choice. They can spend it, but there should be clear boundaries, and once it's gone, it's gone. Okay, so that's their very natural consequence, right? So if they're out with their friends and they spend their money at Starbucks and then there's not money for a movie afterward, that's a natural consequence. Okay. This is a good chance to also develop passion projects. So, what are the things that they are interested in? Could they have a business idea around things that they already like to do? Okay. So, do they like to draw? Is there a way that you can connect that to a business idea? Or you can show how money can fund those hobbies. If you really like skiing, or you really like Disney, hey, you have to work and save so that you can then go do these fun things. Okay. So again, consequences matter. They really, really need to understand the delayed gratification, right? So you have a little bit now, but if you save it, you have more to spend later. Okay. So just understanding those kind of costs as young as you can teach it. Okay. And then money skills, specifically for that 9 to 12 age group that we just talked about. Okay. So help them set specific saving goals for ideas, experiences, items, big ticket things that they want to save for, so that they can visualize or know how close they are to making that happen. Okay. And then learning earning rates. So again, how many hours of work at minimum wage is it going to take to buy that thing? Or how many of these things that you could make and sell, or how many lawns would you need to mow, whatever it is, whatever they're going to do for work, how much of that is going is it going to take to make this savings goal happen? Okay. And then teaching them to do comparison shopping. So when Leon bought his 3D printer, we looked at 3 or 4 different places that had the same printer, right? But we checked the price on Amazon, at Best Buy, at Walmart, so that we could then make a good decision about, hey, it's the same item, but it might be different prices in each of these 3 places. So we want to always have the most money that we can left over. And so because we bought it at a specific shop that was cheaper than the other places, then he had money left over to be able to buy the filament that he needed to go with the 3D printer. Okay, so simple budgeting for activities and planning and trade-offs. So you could do a trip, right? A family trip. And this could be more of like a fun budget. Hey, how much do you think it cost for plane tickets to go to Disney World? How much do the tickets cost to actually go? How much do you think we should spend on eating? Okay, if we didn't spend that much on eating, would we have that much money left aside so that we could buy a souvenir or something like that? So maybe you give them a budget and let them kind of do some research and planning for something fun like that, right? And so they can allocate the money. Let's say, hey, we're going to take a trip and we have $500 for this trip. I want you to decide, okay, how much, and they can do the research, right? How much is it going to take for gas? How much does it cost to eat out? How much can we spend for a ticket for something fun? So helping them understand budgeting, but in a fun way, planning a trip that they might be more excited about. Okay. Then we get to a little bit older, 13 to 15. So this is where, so I started working at this age, where I was, and I think they can still allow it. So this is areas where they can start working on their own to make their own money. So this could be where they are at a grocery store. They usually allow baggers, and they can't be a cashier, but you can be a bagger or a stalker at a grocery store, usually at age 14. If they're 13, they might be able to do some babysitting or some dog watching, things like that, where they're earning their own money. Okay, so they're going to be very focused on the here and now, very focused on what their peers are doing. They want to experiment with being their own person and having some independence, but they're also learning who they are at this age. Okay, so this is the time where they really need to understand comparison shopping, understanding time versus money trade-off, right? So the things that you want, maybe if you want to spend that Starbucks cup of coffee, right? Well, you have to work for 1 whole hour at minimum wage to earn that one cup of coffee. Like, is that worth it to you? Is that a good trade-off of time for money, right? They can also learn from you. They can look at your bank statement. They can understand how you do your household budget. So they could look at learning just those basic tools like, hey, this is how you write out a check. This is how I do my budget. This is looking at the credit card statement or the bank statement. This is how I categorize what's a need versus what's a want. What are the things that getting their input on things that maybe they think could be done away with in order to save for a bigger goal. Okay, so these are the things that you should focus on in this early teen years. Okay, so they should open a checking account. They should understand how to use their debit cards, that a debit card is for real money, not pretend money, not fake money. It matches the money that's in their checking account. They should know how to read their bank statement. They should understand different types of income. This is again what we were talking about. So understanding, hey, if you work for an hourly wage, that might be really different than what you can make mowing lawns. Basic tax concepts. Hey, the money that you make, you also have to pay taxes on. So this is how you have to. So I taught Leon the difference between like a gross income and a net income. So the gross income being what you make first, and then after all of your expenses are paid and the taxes are paid, this is what you have left over. That's your net. So they can understand that at this age. Smart spending habits about looking for things, what they cost, resisting impulse buying, and how to manage their personal budget. Okay. They should also understand how things like a credit report or your interest or a good credit score is actually going to affect them later. So I would 100% start out with a debit and a checking account so that they get in the habit of learning how to use real money before you introduce anything about a credit card. The worst thing that you can do is have them, just swipe a card and not thinking about the actual cost later of that item, because what it costs now, the money down or the monthly payment, as opposed to what the entire cost is.
I think we need to start here instead of at her age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's 13, 14 now.
Okay. Stage 4. This is your fully working teen age range. So ages 16 to 18. This is getting them on the right path to being self-reliant, where they're making, spending, and understanding wisely how money works, right? So this is what they're capable of and the teaching priorities you should focus on. So they are capable to think and plan, to make mature financial decisions. They should very clearly understand strategic money skills of saving, spending, and investing, even if investing for them means keeping a small amount that they can spend for something bigger later. Paychecks and taxes, understanding basic forms. Again, 16 to 18, they're capable of having a full regular job, right? So going and having a normal W-2. So walking through with them how to figure out how to fill out a W-2 or a W-4, tax forms and things like that. Having them, if they're sick and they have to call into work. So understanding those types of responsibilities and work ethic. Again, bigger long-term goals. Money is power, money is responsibility. So at this age range, right, they're looking for that first vehicle. So if they started in the previous age range up until now, starting to save some of that money as they're getting aware of what their friends are doing. Hey, when you turn 16, you're going to want to buy a car, right? Well, we're not going to give you a car. You're going to earn towards a car. We can match what you earn towards your car, but thinking about like bigger financial ticket items. Okay. So you are preparing them for financial independence and self-reliance. They need the authentic responsibility, real world application, real forms, understanding, hey, if you don't take care of your vehicle, if you don't pay your taxes, if you don't do this, these are the things that can happen. And this is a perfect time to let them make mistakes. Okay, it's really easy to want to jump in and save them or bail them out of whatever trouble that they get themselves into. But you need that safety net around them so that they can make the mistakes and feel comfortable making a mistake, knowing that you're there to support them. Okay, so these are the main late teen money skills to focus on. Okay, so guide them in saving for significant purchases like cars. Start talking about college choices now. Even at age 16, that's 4 years to prepare for college, right? So thinking long term, you're teaching them that long term planning, thinking about career paths. Hey, what do you make as a teacher versus what do you make as an electrician versus what do you make as a lawyer? What does the cost of that education look like? Can you go to a trade school? Can you do something that earns you income without going to school, right? None of those are off the table, but you need to understand what they're interested in and what they want to do. And in this age range, they can easily get kind of mentorships for those. So if they're interested in something specific, try to see if you can get them an internship where they, maybe they think in their head they want to be a veterinarian because like that's the greatest thing ever because in their head that sounds like great. And then they actually go volunteer at a veterinary clinic or at an animal shelter and they realize, oh, maybe this isn't really what I want to do. So taking those little steps for trying things out before it costs them a lot, right? Because all of us know people who went to college and then they end up in careers that have absolutely nothing to do with what they went to college for. So knowing very clearly what you want to do before you go get the education for that is really important. Okay. At this point, they can definitely understand investing, compound interest, how that they can, at this age, be investing in an actual, you know, IRA or a self-directed investment, a 529 plan to pay for their college later. They really need to have responsible credit card use. So if you are going to allow them to have a credit card at this age, then it is absolutely imperative that you are going to take the time to sit down with them every single month and go over that statement with them. If you are not willing to put the time in to do that with them, then do not let them have a credit card at that age because it takes you wanting to educate them on the right way to build credit and understanding tax concepts and things like that. Okay. And then understanding all of these things, basically our whole course for adults, right? But starting basic as they go through. So intentionally directing their money towards priorities. They need to understand as early as possible that budgeting means having a plan. It's not a punishment. It's not telling them what they can't have. It's giving them permission to spend it on the right things that they've decided ahead of time. So you want to teach that lesson early so that they get used to being on a budget while they're still a teen, before they go out and build their households. Okay, so they should also learn about having an emergency fund. They should learn about having debt freedom, using that credit card very wisely, only using it if they can pay it off each month. They should think of it more like a debit card, not a credit card, so that they're building the credit, but they are also not adding debt. You do not want them starting off their adulthood with debt. Okay, paying cash for cars, when possible, paying cash for college. They need to learn to fill out those scholarship applications. They should be filling out every scholarship application that they can. If they're ages 16 to 18, I don't care if it's a $200 scholarship, right? If you're spending a half an hour to fill out that scholarship, well, guess what? You just made $200 an hour if you get it. So teaching them different ways to cash flow things, so that they do not fall into the trap, which so many young adults do, of just putting everything on a credit card and only thinking about the payment and not thinking about the whole cost as a whole, what that means in terms of loss of opportunities later on. Okay. And then also just building up their wealth and learning to give. They can understand all of these concepts. And we probably underestimate what they're able to do much more than we give them credit for. Okay. And then through this all, thinking also about cultivating a spirit of you want them, your whole goal is to make them a productive member of society, right? You don't want them to turn into entitled turds. You just don't. Like, I don't want that for my kids. I don't want that for yours. So teaching them to cultivate contentment and gratitude and resisting this whole comparison game of thinking that they have to do what what the broke Joneses are doing, those people who have the broke mindset, right? Because they have the big fancy houses and cars, but they don't have actually any money to go with it. Okay. So understanding very diverse realities, just as something looks a certain way doesn't mean that that actually is what happens underneath. Right? So you want to be careful about who you're surrounding them with, giving them those role models. Who can they learn from besides you? Like sometimes your kids don't learn the greatest from just you. So maybe you need to put them with a role model that they can learn financial attitudes and responsibilities from. Okay, so small things, small habits with money grow into really big, large patterns. So you want to be careful of what small habits you're teaching them early on so that they can develop the good, right habits later. And then teaching about gratitude and perspective, volunteering, mission trips, things like that, understanding the global situation of the world and how very blessed and lucky we are. And offering support during through if they have a problem, you should not be solving that problem for them. You should be offering them support and advice. But if they're 16 to 18, they have to be able to make those financial mistakes where it's not going to wreck their entire life, but they might have to learn some hard lessons along the way. Okay. When they own that their decisions and the consequences that come out of them, then they're going to learn much more quickly than if they just make a bad choice and someone bails them out. So understanding that their decisions equal consequences, whether those are good consequences, or bad consequences, right? It's just this, if you do X, Y happens or Z happens. So it's your choice. So again, giving them that ownership of choice, but understanding what happens at the end. Okay. And then I have a whole bunch of like a whole page of different like books and games and activities and things for different age ranges. Most of the stuff, because like I said, I taught younger kids, I have a lot on the younger side. I don't have as much on the older side. But I think all of these are things that you could do, right? So shopping scavenger hunt, comparing prices, finding the best deals on things. Let them shop for your groceries, like Instacart, right? Like you can compare. Hey, if you buy this is what we need for the week for groceries. Do you want to buy it from Walmart? Do you want to buy it from Kroger? Do you want to buy it from Meijer? Let's compare the prices on those. Even silly games, but like Monopoly or Life, right? Like those actually teach financial concepts. And then communication, just making sure, again, you want them to be in that classroom that we talked about where money is talked about in a calm way, but an open way. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a stressful or hidden topic that you're just open talking about money, you're talking about budgeting, you're talking about how you use and make your financial decisions so they start to understand, hey, what are all of the things that go into making a financial decision? Again, creating those opportunities for them to have a say in the household budget. Maybe you bring them into that budget meeting. Maybe you say, hey, here's what we're going to look at spending for this month. What are your thoughts? What do you think? Or we're going to go on this trip. Why don't you plan the budget? Here's how much we can spend while we're there. You decide and allocate and do the research for how much all of those things. And then again, they're going to want to do what they see you do. So demonstrating those attitudes through your own behavior is going to be the biggest thing that affects them. All right, that is the slideshow, but I'm going to stop for a minute. Do you guys have any questions or ahas? I do have more like examples on the different age ranges, but I didn't want to spend too much time without knowing if you wanted more specifics on anything.
Just a question. What's your perspective of that Greenlight card? I guess it kind of like a debit card. I know that you had put like having them maybe use like a card or something in there a little bit later teens. But what about that for like earlier on?
I think it matters first that they have to know that they have made that connection between work and money first. So if they have their own money, it's going to matter a whole lot more than if you're just putting money on a card for them to spend. So I don't think it matters at what point that they have that debit card, but they have to equate work and earning with money first. So if they have the money that they've saved from birthdays and things like that, and they're past the point of being needing to see it and touch it. So that kind of, it's a little bit developmental at what age range they're ready to like understand that, okay, I don't actually need to like see it and count it and touch it. And when they're able to think more abstractly about, okay, this is a number and I'm spending this much from a number without having like the cash feeling of spending it, then they're probably ready for a debit card.
Okay.
And that might be a little bit different depending on
Yeah.
their ages.
She's not ready at all. We started with like envelopes, like so like let's say she gets something from doing a chore or holidays or something. We split it up so she can only spend like a small bit of it, and then the rest is saving, and then the rest is giving. So we kind of broke it up that way. So we're starting. It's new.
So again, so like the spending, the biggest difference between spending and saving is I think where it can go wrong is if you have that saving, but they don't know what they're saving for. And so then it just feels like money that they can't spend, but they don't know what they're saving for. So you kind of need to start with, okay, what's the big thing that you want to save for so they can actually see themselves getting to that point.
Okay. Okay.
Because that was the thing with Leon was like, okay, he's got all the money in all the jars, but like to him, they're still spending, right? They're all three spending jars. They're just spending for different things. So the spending he can spend on whatever he wants, as stupid as it is, he gets to make the decision. The saving is spending, but it's like working towards that one big thing. And then the giving is still his choice. So he's still making the choice about what to spend the giving on. So he can spend it by dropping it in the homeless shelter, like giving to a charity that means something to him, or, dropping it in the offering plate at church. It's up to him, or to a friend's birthday. So I've actually let him use his giving jar because he wanted to, he's got that generous kind of spirit and he wanted to give some money to his friend for his birthday. And I was like, it's your giving.
Good
So
idea.
it's fine,
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
Cornbread Road, okay, yeah. That's
Brian?
Brian.
Commercial for sale, 34 acres.
Or
He's on the
Belinda,
phone.
do you have any questions about Peyton that you wanted to ask?
No, not right now.
Okay. Was it helpful?
Yeah, it was helpful. She's pretty good with it because I've always taken her to mustard seed and all that kind of stuff. So then when I take her shopping somewhere else and she sees the prices, then she doesn't get it.
Yeah. How old is Peyton now?
12.
Okay. Yeah, so I think some of you guys both have them right on the edge of that kind of, hey, when do they need to learn to do their own budget, to be able to have a debit card, to understand, some of the a little bit more complicated things. But it's going to be a little bit when they're ready for it. But they might enjoy the adult aspect of it too, like being able to be trusted with a little bit more responsibility for like, hey, why don't you do our grocery budget? Or this is how, like kind of teaching them life household skills in a way that actually matters, that they can see what the difference is. So, all right. Well, we're ending a few minutes early, about 8 minutes. I will send you guys the slides. And let me look and see. I think with the resources and stuff I have, I will look and see what ones I have for kind of like that 12 to 14 age range.
Okay.
So if there's any like games or books or resources or something like that.
Yeah, I think we just ordered her a couple books. Let me grab them.
So a lot of this presentation kind of came from 3 books that I read that were kind of like about teaching your kids about money. Um, one was by Rachel Cruz, and I liked that one. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Smart Money, Smart Kids. So that one was good. It's again kind of like an adult perspective, and it does go through the different age ranges, but she has a lot of good examples in there of what to do.
Would you say Smart Money what?
It's called Smart Money, Smart Kids, and it's
Is
by
that with
Rachel
Dave Ramsey and Rachel Cruz?
Yes.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
she's the main one who wrote it. I think he just wrote like the introduction or something.
Yeah, Brian had me order her Murphy's Law,
Oh yeah.
and we got that one. So when I seen that one, then I found one. It's Investing for Kids, from piggy banks to portfolios.
Yeah. That's
That's
I
page
didn't
12.
really talk about that as much, but even with something as fun as like the Acorn app, right? Like they could pick, if there's a brand or something that they really like, they could literally pick a stock to invest in on like the Acorn app. Or Robinhood, I think is another one that's just like a really small app, and you can just do like little tiny investing, but like Leon loves Legos, so he could invest in the stock of Legos so that he can kind of understand what's happening with it. Or if they really like, I don't know what brands are for kids, because I've got all boys at my house, so I don't know about girl brands, but um, or Nintendo or whatever the thing is. So they could choose to invest even something as little or as silly as that, just so they can kind of see how it goes up, how it goes down, and understanding that, hey, stock means you're owning a little piece of that company. So if you love Legos, then hey, guess what? You can own a little bit of Legos. Like you might own $4.50 worth of Lego, but still, just seeing what happens with that could be also kind of fun. All right. Well, I am going to let us go, give you 4 minutes of your life back, and I will send out the recording and the slides afterwards. And you guys can let me know if you have any other questions.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye.
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 Thank you, ma'am.